All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're opening up a case file to conduct a forensic investigation into what might be one of the most successful strategic plans in all of human history. We're not just looking at it as a religious text, but as a corporate directive, a military command, and a legal mandate. So let's get into it.
So here's the central puzzle we're trying to solve. How did a small group of followers, starting out in what was basically a geopolitical backwater of the Roman Empire, manage to launch a movement that would literally reshape the world? This isn't just a question of faith, right? It's a question of logistics, of authority, and of pure strategy.
And here's our core premise, our main theory for this investigation. Its success wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a powerful idea that caught on. No, it was driven by a really sophisticated, actionable plan. We're going to break down the Great Commission piece by piece to see the strategic genius that powered its launch.
Okay, to really get how radical this was, you have to understand the huge strategic flip that happened. For centuries, the model was come and see. If you wanted to connect with God, you had to travel to the center, to Jerusalem. The Great Commission completely flipped the script. The new model, go and tell. The message suddenly becomes decentralized. It travels out to the people, wherever they are. And that changed everything.
All right, let's get into our first piece of evidence, which I'm calling Heavenly Power of Attorney. This really gets to the legal foundation of the whole mission. I mean, you've got to ask, what gave these guys the right to undertake this mission? The legal right.
So the key term here, the one you need to know, is epitropos. Now, in the first century Roman world, this wasn't some obscure word. It was a common and powerful legal concept. It meant you were an official agent, a legal representative. Think of it like a branch manager with the full authority delegated straight from headquarters.
And this is where you really see the mindset shift. The disciples weren't acting like volunteers working on some personal passion project. No, they were operating as legal representatives, fulfilling an official, accountable public duty. This wasn't a hobby. This was official business.
Okay, now this is fascinating. This is where we see just how closely the Apostolic Commission mirrors the power structure of a Roman procurator, someone like Pontius Pilate. Just look at the parallels. The authority comes from a higher sovereign, it gives you legal standing, it defines your jurisdiction, and it gives you the tools to get the job done. This is our smoking gun.
And it's not like we're just guessing here. We see this exact term, epitrope, used right in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul mentions that he once acted with the authority and commission of the religious leaders. So this proves that when they used this word, they meant business. It was a formal, delegated power of attorney. You're an official agent for a higher power.
So what was the job of these legal agents? It was to present evidence. The mission was based on what the book of Acts calls tekmarion. Now, this was the absolute gold standard of evidence back then. Think infallible proofs designed to withstand the toughest cross-examination. The whole enterprise, from the ground up, was built like a legal case based on verifiable facts.
Okay, so they had the legal authority. Check. But how on earth do you pull something like this off logistically? Well, that brings us to Exhibit B, the incredible infrastructure of the Roman Empire, which you could say was kind of like Rome's World Wide Web.
Just think about this number for a second. 50,000. That's 50,000 miles of paved, all-weather roads connecting the empire. This wasn't just about moving armies, it was the information superhighway of its day. It made a truly global mission logistically possible for the very first time in history. And the roads were really just the start. You had the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, which meant you could travel pretty safely. You had secure sea lanes for predictable maritime travel. You had a common language, Koine Greek, which was the English of its day, so no translation delays. It was the perfect storm, a completely frictionless environment for an idea to just explode.
So all this infrastructure, it completely changes how we should think about the expansion. We often picture it as this slow, step-by-step thing. Jerusalem, then Judea, then Samaria. But the evidence? It points to something much more dynamic, more like a simultaneous launch. The message exploded outwards in all directions at once, leveraging this entire network from day one.
All right, so we've got the authority, we've got the logistics. But what were they actually doing? What was the product, so to speak? This brings us to our final piece of evidence, the educational method that was right at the heart of the strategy.
And this is absolutely crucial. You have to understand the difference between a momentary decision and a lifelong commitment. The goal wasn't just to get someone to have a one-time change of heart, what the Greeks called epistrepho. No, the core command was to make a disciple.
to enroll someone in a lifelong process of learning and training.
You see, a disciple, a mathetes in Greek, wasn't just a student in a classroom. They were more like an apprentice. The word itself implies active, hands-on learning. It's not just thinking about something, it's doing it. It meant a really intense, long-term commitment to a master to acquire their skills and knowledge.
So if you actually break down the command, the process becomes crystal clear. You go, and then the main action, the engine of the whole thing, is to make disciples, enroll them as active learners. And how do you do that? By teaching them. It's not just about a decision, it's a comprehensive educational program.
And believe it or not, this was another totally radical shift. In the traditional Jewish rabbinic model, a student would eventually graduate and become a master themselves. But in this new system, discipleship was permanent. Jesus remained the one and only master. And what did that do? Well, it created this incredible intellectual stability and unity across the entire movement.
Okay, let's step back. We've examined the evidence. We've looked at the legal authority, the logistical opportunity, and the educational method. It's time to bring it all together for the final verdict.
So our investigation points to three core pillars that made this strategy just unstoppable. First, you have the legal authority, that heavenly power of attorney. Second, the incredible logistical opportunity that Rome's infrastructure provided. And third, the educational rigor of a lifelong masterclass that ensured quality control and consistency.
So what's our final verdict? The Great Commission wasn't just some hopeful prayer, it was a masterclass in strategy. A brilliant plan that leveraged the legal, logistical, and educational systems of its day with perfect timing and incredible effectiveness.
And that, of course, leaves us with one last question for you to think about. If a 2,000-year-old plan was this sophisticated about leveraging authority, infrastructure, and deep user engagement, what does that teach us about what really makes ideas go viral in our own hyper-connected world today?